Hello, welcome to Redhead Art. First of all, subscribe. Now today I'm going to show you how to make eggshell candles. I'm in a different part of my house today. I'm near my kitchen because what I've got here, and you can probably hear it, is a pot of hot water with a tin can and some melting wax. But we'll come to that in a minute, but I'm preparing this whilst we talk, so to speak. We can make the simple version of eggshell candles. You can make one version where you get the perfect egg shape, but this one is one where you keep the candle in the shell. So what you'll need is some eggs. You'll need a pin like this to help you empty the egg. You'll need some crayons. Now the crayons are for colouring your wax, and an old candle like this. Now this is a really good candle because it's cream coloured or white, and also because it's quite deep hole. I can't actually use this one anymore because every time I light it, lots of wax melts and it means it sort of turns itself off, if that makes sense. So this is a really good candle to recycle. Then I've also got some baker's twine, a toothpick, and some tape. Now the reason I use baker's twine is when I make my other candles I do use proper candle wicks, but the ones that I bought from the shop, to be honest, I realised were very similar to the baker's twine, just a bit thicker. And also a few years ago I did a little experiment and I tried making my own wicks and compared it to the shop bought wicks, and I think when you're making little candles like these, the difference really isn't that big. Shop bought candle wicks are really important when you're making bigger things like this, and also if you're selling it. If you're just using it at home, then you know what, a bit of baker's twine works brilliantly, and also it's really cheap and looks pretty. So the first thing you want to do is you need to empty your eggshell. Now the easiest way to do it is to use a pin like this, and then you carefully, actually I'm going to pick it away here, you carefully pick away at the shell like this. But be very careful because, you know, eggshells have got very interesting property. They're very strong and yet they're very fragile, aren't they? Now excuse the light because obviously we're working in a different place so that you can see my cooker. So basically I just picked away like this at the raw egg and then plopped it inside the bowl. Now I'm going to use that later to have scrambled eggs because I'm not going to waste it, am I? Because this is all about being thrifty. And then slowly pick around a bit more till you've got the height that you want. Give it a good rinse, let it dry, and then put it to one, you know, and then you're ready to go. So I'm just going to move it to one side. Get all my little bits out, wipe my fingers. So the next thing you want to do is prepare your eggshells. So whilst I'm doing all this, I've actually, like I've mentioned already, got my wax ready to go. So you could just prepare your eggshells first, then get your wax ready, or you can get your wax ready and then prepare your eggshells, whatever you prefer. We're going to prepare our eggshells and then I'm going to talk about the wax. So you can see I've done two already. I'm going to take my spare one out of the middle. Again, this is a little bit fiddly, so this is obviously a craft for older people. You know, if you are younger, please do not do this without adult supervision. If you're older, you know, it's obviously your kitchen, your craft, your activity. I cut off a little bit. Now I'm using just a normal sort of like a sellotape here. I wouldn't necessarily use masking tape because I would worry about it burning. And then you just pop that at the bottom, and there you've made your own kind of like wick that sort of stays at the bottom. Normally you can get those the wicks with the metal plate at the bottom which pulls it down nicely, but again, I like making things with stuff from around the home and I don't have any of those wicks and I'm too impatient to go and buy some from eBay and wait for them to be delivered. Now I'm very carefully, I should have left my piece of string a bit longer, I'm now going to tie this around a toothpick, and that will make sure that when the hot wax comes it doesn't start flopping over. So again, like I said before, a bit fiddly. Here we go, tie it on. It doesn't have to be like really taut, it just, you know, just roughly standing up, and then put it in place. I've decided to kind of put it in place like this because then it's easier to pour. So I've got my eggs ready. Now it's time for the candle. Like I've said before, I've used candles like this. I've used birthday cake candles. I've used candles left over from Christmas, and then I've used crayons. Crayons are really good for colouring. All you do is you get an old chopping board and an old knife. You chop, chop, chop. You scrunch, scrunch, scrunch. You don't need much, maybe like this much to colour it, and you put it all in a tin can like this. So I have an old tin can here. I put the the white wax and some red in this one in here, and then I've put it in an old pot of hot water. Now I'm saying old, and again, if you're using somebody else's equipment, please make sure you ask first. I use old because sometimes when you're working you will spill a little bit of the wax, so there will be some sort of residue around the outside of the bowl. So I put it in there and I've watched it melt. Now again, like with all these sort of things, keep an eye on it. Don't leave it unattended, and you know, just be careful. Now I've got a cloth here. I can actually often pick up the can without a cloth, but because this is a YouTube video, I need to be extra careful for you. So pick it up like this, and then carefully pour it. Now again, I'm sorry about the shadows and stuff, because obviously if I was working from the other side you'd be able to see better. And then you pour it in for as high as you want to go. Now because these are eggshell candles that stay in the eggshell, you're not going to pick them out afterwards. You don't have to go to the very top, because that's kind of the charm, is that the candle's sitting inside an eggshell. There we go. You could also use something like blue tack to secure your baker's twine at the bottom, but just make sure it's secure and that when the hot wax goes on it, it doesn't come kind of unstuck and melt. But to be honest, if you leave it and don't move it around, it usually works just fine. And look at that, I had just the right amount of wax in there. Actually there's still a bit in there that isn't melted, can you see? So I could put that back in the pot, let that melt some more, and then carry on making new ones. Or you can see this one's floating a bit, so the heavier you make the tin, the better. And then once you're done, you can just throw away the tin with the remaining wax in it, or save it for another project. Now I'm going to let this cool, and once it's cooled, they're ready to go. You put them into little egg cups and they make a wonderful little present. Just quickly showing you what the finished candle looks like. Can you see on this one, there's a little hole. What happens is as the wax contracts, you often get dips. So if you want, you can pour in some more hot wax on top to even it out. Obviously this one's not so neat, but these ones are. So, you know, it's a bit of trial and error. So all you need to do now is take out your toothpick, unknot this, like that. Taking a little while. And then you can just snip this down a little bit so that, get my scissors out. Oh. If you have a really long wick, it's a bit dangerous, so snip it down a little bit. Then you get your egg cup like this, or you can leave it in the egg carton actually. And now you're ready to light your candle. Let's have a quick go. There we go. And here you have your very own egg cup candle. And doesn't that look lovely? And then I'll show it sideways. Oh, you can see the flame, but that does look really, really sweet, and it looks like a really nice little Easter decoration. Anyway, we hope to see you here at Red Tape Art again soon. Don't forget to subscribe and have lots of fun this Easter. Bye bye.